Seeing some familiar faces and super excited. Welcome back, Tatiana.
Thank
Um,
you, Yan.
I
Hi,
love
everyone.
it. It is fantastic.
Sorry,
And
what did you say, Yan?
I said, Katie, I love your hair. It's
Oh,
fantastic. You have so
thank
much
you.
volume. It's
Thank
great.
you. I missed that.
Thank you so much. Trent, welcome back. Erin, welcome back. Super excited to chat today about Do Nothing. I'm guessing folks are hopping out of other meetings, so we'll just start with our classic little check-in activity. If you're unfamiliar, please share how you're feeling. Green is great, yellow okay, and red terrible. So if you want to mark a reaction, share it into the chat. Tatiana, I'm guessing that was like for the previous comment and not for your check-in, I hope. So yes, please share how you're feeling and maybe a little bit of context, and we'll dive in a little bit. Okay, awesome. And Tatiana, why are you feeling green today? Any particular reason why?
I had a day off yesterday to honor the memory of my late husband, and it was a very special day to me. And so I'm back to work today, and I'm really excited to be talking about this book. I love to work for a company where I can take, PTO whenever I need it. And I always feel grateful for that opportunity to just take a day to do what I need to do. Thanks
Amazing.
for asking.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I hope that yesterday was really meaningful and special and like amazing. Katie, why are you feeling green today?
I am back at home after being on the road for a month. Not solid, but just a lot of travel, some for pleasure and some for work, which I loved every minute, but it takes it out of you. So very happy to be in my home office with my dogs, my husband, and it's a beautiful day in Bend, Oregon. So
Amazing. Yes, I'm hoping, is it sunny weather then in Bend or wow, crazy. You're beating out LA. We're completely overcast over here, which
oh, I'm
uh,
sorry.
Erin, I saw you mark a yellow. Why are you checking in yellow today?
Yeah, just some personal things going on kind of in the background that definitely have me, a little bit more stressed out than I would typically be. But on the positive, like upside of things, there's a lot to like look forward to in the next like month or so. I'm doing a lot of traveling, going to New York, going to Chicago. So definitely excited for, both of those trips. And then Katie, love Bend, Oregon. I lived in Eugene for quite some time. So I hope you are enjoying being back home.
Definitely, definitely.
Amazing. So if you just joined, we're doing a quick little green, yellow, red check-in. Eric, I saw that you marked yourself as green. Any particular reason why?
I slept so well last night for like the first time in 7 days.
Wow.
So it was one of those like, woke up this morning. I felt super refreshed, recharged, and ready to go for the day. And it's been a while. So I was like, I need to put my green in today because I'm feeling it.
Fantastic. I'm so glad to hear. Did you change anything about your routine? Any idea what gave you the magic of sleep?
I went on a long run yesterday, which I haven't done in a while, and so I've just been kind of trying to listen to my body, and it's been hurting a bit as I'm getting older. So I've been doing a lot of rehabilitative work to get myself back to a place where I can do longer distance running. So I think that also just took it out of me yesterday. So I truly just rested and recharged. So yeah, happy for what's ahead on my fitness journey as I try to get myself back into running.
Amazing. And I love how that little change completely changed your day. Trent, I'm really glad that there's beautiful weather out there in Minneapolis. Everybody's making me jealous. Why am I in LA and why do we have the shittiest weather right now? Doesn't make sense. Awesome. Jocelyn, Heba, how are you all checking in today?
I'm assuming there's only one Jocelyn, so it's going to be me. Hi. I'm doing pretty well. Things are good. Beautiful weather. I'm in Vancouver, actually Vancouver Island, so just north of Seattle. Yeah, so things are really great. I guess I would give myself the green too, and one of the reasons is because I got to play Tears of the Kingdom all weekend because it came out Friday, and I had been waiting for years. And so I was like, this is amazing. So yeah, there we go. That's me.
That's fantastic. And I've heard only amazing things about that game. So I'm glad that it's living up to expectation. Fantastic. And Heba, last but not least, how are you doing?
I went with the green. I had a great weekend. I read 2 books, started a third, and it's lovely in DC today. And my
Yeah.
mother-in-law's visiting, so I'm pretty pumped.
Fantastic. I love it. So amazing. We have a bit of a smaller group, so I'll just dive in and get started. I forgot to do this last group, but please head on over to our club member directory if you'd like to add folks on LinkedIn. These are meant to be like forever friendships. So whoever you meet here, please don't let that relationship end with just this little session. We have a pretty packed schedule. I first want to introduce myself, of course. So my name is Yen. I'm co-founder of Kona. We're the manager, co-pilot, and employee well-being platform in Slack. Built this company because remote work sucked as college students. We recognized that and we wanted to make it better. So a few students in a dorm room started thinking up of this dog that lives in your kind of virtual environment, and it's kind of blossomed since. It also introduced me to my amazing co-host, Monica. Monica, would you like to take the floor?
Hello, everybody. My name is Monica. I am the first marketer here at Kona. I love books. I read 100 books every year, so I'm very passionate about literature and I'm very passionate about leadership. So book club is the place for me to be. If you see me looking down a lot, that is because I'm taking care of all the technical stuff. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm making sure that everybody is heard. Have fun.
Amazing. And last but not least, I'm going to introduce Kona. This is a Kona like sponsored event. And I just wanted to share a quick little feature call out that is very relevant to today's topic. If you know Kona, then you're probably familiar with this little green, yellow, red. Oh, wow. We had a lot of check-ins today. But essentially, Kona slots into your Slack channel, asks this quick little question, how are you feeling green, yellow, red, like we just did, and allows a lot of teammates to share how they're doing. We have folks that went to Trader Joe's, took flowers and stuff. Andrew went climbing and is physically exhausted. Abby had a great energizing start to the day. And whatever you check in and stuff, Kona also reacts with a quick little AI shout out and stuff. So the other day I marked that I was feeling overwhelmed and Kona actually gave me some tips and tricks. So again, well-being pilot inside your Slack that can help with a lot of these things. But without further ado, after that kind of little podcast style commercial, let's dive into our topic for today. So that was our little group photo. Next, discussion rules. Just want to create a safe container. Obviously, a very small group, and I recognize a lot of faces. You're an amazing group, so I'm super excited. But just wanted to call out a few things. Do nothing part one is kind of painful. It's all just talking about the problem, and a lot of it is unlearning some really deeply rooted things. I just want to call out that unlearning is very uncomfortable, so embrace the suck and keep an open mind as best as possible. In addition, please assume positive intent. People get to sharing some pretty vulnerable things on this topic, so keep an open mind, acknowledge, validate, and create space for diverse perspectives. And as a last housekeeping thing, raise your hand if you'd like to speak. This is a smaller group, so I expect a lot less interruption. So if you do want to unmute and speak, you totally can. Just kind of be mindful of other folks that might have unmuted first. We can kind of navigate that as we go. So exciting things. We have a very packed agenda for you today. Hopefully we get time to go through everything. We just went through intro. Next, we'll do part one review. If you haven't sat through one of our kind of sessions, it's very interactive. So with every section, I have an open question. We can normally take 2 or 3 hands. So I just ask that you raise your hand, offer your thoughts, and we'll start to spark up a really fruitful discussion there. Then we have a limiting beliefs workshop hosted by our very own Heba. Not sure if you're aware, but we have a mini celebrity inside our group right now. Heba is fantastic. I'll read a proper introduction, but leave it kind of like on a cliffhanger for a little bit for now. Then we'll dive into a manager roundtable, a leadership roundtable where you can bring open questions that you're dealing with, things that you're observing as people ops leaders and stuff at your organizations to share with and get feedback from your fellow group members. So a lot of discussion, and it'll be a very kind of busy hour, but hopefully we can learn how to do nothing. So let's dive in. We're going to go over part 1 of this book. And like I said, it addresses the problem with a lot of research and a lot of rich kind of context. I'll call out if you didn't have time to read, there's no shame here. You can still follow along just fine. We know folks are really busy and that schedules are quite demanding. So the first kind of introduction opens with this. We work feverishly to make ourselves happy. So why are we so miserable? Why do we measure our time in terms of efficiency instead of meaning? Why can't we just take a break? And this is definitely something I've asked myself over and over again. So to see it on the page was very validating. We also open up with this line that kind of punched me in the throat. We answer work emails on Sunday night. Anybody guilty of this, answering an email on a Sunday? Okay, I see hands and nods. We read endless articles about how to hack our brains. We are members of the cult of efficiency, and we're killing ourselves with productivity. So this word cult of efficiency pops up quite a bit in the book, and it's defined as a group whose members believe fervently in the virtue of constant activity and finding the most efficient way to accomplish just about anything and everything. They are busy all the time, and they take it on faith that all their effort is saving time and making their lives better. So powerful stuff. And as a self-proclaimed member of the cult of efficiency, I want to ask, The cult of efficiency relies on a belief that following a rigorous schedule will improve your life. In what ways do we reinforce that as a society? What are the consequences of this belief? So starting out guns blazing, if folks want to raise their hand, feel free. If you want to unmute, feel free. But yeah, let's talk about this.
So I will say when we moved to Bend 4 years ago, January was 4 years, and my husband and I just unplugged from everything because we recognized that we were so overscheduled and so busy, like with our son's activities and everything, and he's now 25 and adulting, sort of, mostly adulting. It just recognized that we needed a break. And now where I am today, it's like we've gotten involved in things, and I feel like things have ramped back up for me personally. And there's some things that I would like to step out of. But I want to be thoughtful about it, because that belonging, those human interactions, those things that we talked about in person, especially working remote, it's, I don't know, it's a tricky balance, but I am much more conscientious of what I commit to, so that I am not having a rigorous schedule of activities.
Yeah, I love how you called out that it kind of ramped back up again, as if maybe you were able to clear it out, but that this kind of creeps up. And it will definitely be addressing that in further sections. Tatiana, did you want to share as well?
I was just thinking from how we get that reinforced in society. I think that it is a very system that we live in. I think that it is very interesting. I read this other book called Rest is Resistance, which is an incredible book about rest, but also how capitalism and white supremacy really have these systems where we need to be productive all the time, or we become machines. And it's really the deprogramming of our bodies as machines in the world, and rethinking what bodies need and what we need in terms of rest. And so I think it is a systemic thing, and that's why it's so difficult for you to grasp what it is, because it's almost invisible. It's the water you're swimming in. It's what everybody talks about. Like she says, right, when you ask, how are you doing? Busy is the first response that you get from most people that you talk to. And I think that that badge of honor of being busy all the time is a hard thing to unlearn, because that's how we inherently see value in ourselves in society. And so I think it is a reshape of reframe of how we think about what it means to produce, and what it means to rest, and what it means to respect our boundaries as human beings. And it is hard because you're doing this against the tide. And so to me, that's the hardest part of inheriting and understanding this belief, is that you are essentially fighting against everything against you. And you're just trying to reframe and get people to understand where you're coming from. And I see her doing this in the book a lot. It's just like, stop. I know you're going to feel uncomfortable with this, but stop and think with me. And I really appreciate that she does that, because I think for a lot of people, it's just such a shock to read those statements.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, for sake of time, I'm going to have to move to the next section. If you have an observation, please share it in the meeting chat. I do not want any ideas to go to waste, and appreciate the kind of, okay, so this next section, it wasn't always like this, I think, is the biggest kind of takeaway from a lot of the research Celeste presents us. Certainly, we are mostly better off than the average European peasant in the 1600s, but we do, in general, work longer hours. That's an indisputable fact. And having laid out all of the kind of little tidbits and dates that Celeste presents on a timeline, it's really, really powerful stuff. To actually learn that folks in Athens, like hundreds of years ago, they only worked 6 months out of the year. The other 6 months were dedicated to holidays is like mind-boggling. Then we move on to just the impact of the Industrial Revolution. And in a short period of time, you can really see, how stuff ramps up. Efficiency suddenly means the ratio of useful work to energy, and it becomes that kind of modern meaning we have today. The light bulb gets invented, and that really affects capitalism and how factories start to produce. We have World War II driving women to the workforce. We start to like amp up on consumerism. We start to go into kind of productivity booms in just like the last 30 years. And now the self-help industry is estimated to be worth $13 billion. That's billion with a B. So watching this ramp up, I think it really shocks our system and makes us realize how modern of a concept hard work is, and that this is not something we've always done. So this is the next question. For the last 300,000 years, Homo sapiens did not work 40 hours a week or more than 300 days a year. Our working habits drastically changed from the industrial age. Did this research surprise anyone? And is constant work actually a fundamental human concept? Big ideas and stuff for 8:46 a.m. on the West Coast, but yes, let's get some thoughts.
I thought it wasn't that surprising. This section of the book reminded me of a similar book I read a couple years ago called 4,000 Weeks, where he talks about this idea that work is constant, and when we can like accept that and stop putting this constant pressure on ourselves to like get inbox zero. He talks about that as a specific example is useless because tomorrow you'll get another 600 emails and you're just fighting this losing battle. But too, on the last slide, the like evolution over time made me think about another point he raised where it's like, we think we have these hacks that will help us be more efficient, right? Like new appliances, like laundry machines and dishwashing machines were supposed to save housewives time and things like that when they were first invented, but they actually don't, because you don't take that time you make up to rest, you just fill it with more chores, and then your standards become higher and you just have more things to do.
Yeah, the constant, oh my God, I'm losing all my words, but yes, absolutely. Jocelyn, please.
Yeah, just to build on that, I think that is part of the issue is that we create these things to have more time, but then there are more expectations. Like before, if somebody wanted to, let's see, when I worked in an office, somebody wanted to talk to me, they usually came to see me. I've been working remotely for years, and now it's like it's email. Some people still call, sometimes it's text, sometimes it's a Slack DM, sometimes it's a Slack message generally. I have all these places to look in case somebody needs to talk to me. Or before I didn't have that. It was much more streamlined. And I think that's it. It's part of it. Did it surprise me? Yes and no. I guess it depends on what we're looking at. Also, like of course, it's the industrial age, but not everybody necessarily had the work that they wanted to make a living. They weren't necessarily able to live as well as we do now. So I would say that it was just that concept of we built these efficiencies, but we filled it up with more work, and there are more expectations that come with it.
Yeah, I think the double-edged sword of efficiency meant that we were kind of falling in love with the work itself, not actually getting the work done. And that's definitely led us down a pretty interesting path. We're going to move to the next one. This talks about work-life balance and polluted time. One of the quotes is, one of the most common adjectives used to describe the modern rockstar CEO is workaholic. It's usually intended as a compliment or sign of respect. The empty desk beside you might belong to a coworker who apparently doesn't take the job as seriously. It was really jarring to have one of my like dark thoughts on the page and to actually say, oh crap, I've definitely thought that way before. And in this, Celeste brings up the concept of polluted time, this phenomenon caused by having to handle work duties, off hours, being on call, or even having to think carefully about work issues or problem solving while technically not on the job. And based off the nods I'm seeing, a lot of folks here are dealing with some form of polluted time. The problem with this is sustained over a longer period of time, which often happens. We go from this time is money kind of concept to working longer hours and having more polluted time. We feel guilty about rest, we burn out, and then we try to discover some life hack to kind of fix ourselves and get back on track. And boom, we're right back in the cycle. So if life hacks won't fix it, and we need to kind of actually break this right here for the kind of concept that time is money. Let's move on to the next question. How do you define work-life balance? What would ideal work-life balance look like? And in your opinion, is it still possible to separate work and life, given that a lot of us are checking in remotely? A lot of big ideas. I can take about 3 hands. So what do we think here? Yeah, Heba.
I have no work-life balance, and my life has become my work a lot of the time, especially in like a chief people officer job. I have to be like empathetic to everybody at work, and that just like bleeds into everybody in my personal life. And I find my friends calling me for advice on what they can do at work. And I've almost gotten to the point where I'm like, we're going to have, if we meet up, the rule is we don't talk about work. I actually just told my best friend that because I felt like I was wasting her time always talking about work. And she said, I respect that. Let's talk about things that inspire us instead. And so we're going to try this like new approach when we meet up where we don't talk about work, because I'm truly working on this. Like ideally I could do work for 3 to 4 hours a day because no one is productive for 8. I could close my computer at 6 and I would love to not think about work until I go to sleep, but I don't do that. That's what like ideal work-life balance would look like not having a single work thought after 6 p.m.
Definitely. And a paradise, honestly, if you think about it and stuff. And Heba, thank you so much for your vulnerability and for being open and honest about that situation. I feel like a lot of people are in that same boat. Yeah. Erin, please.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of like reflecting a little bit across just kind of the span of my career. And like right now, I probably have the most work-life balance I've ever had, which is like I can log off at 5 and like nobody's going to text or call me or send me a Slack message. Or if they do send me a Slack message, they're totally fine with the fact that I have it on Do Not Disturb. So I think like, you know, those are some like kind of steps that I've just taken personally to ensure that there's some work-life balance there. When I think about, you know, my past roles, especially the last one I was in, I mean, it was around the clock. It was 24 hours a day. I sometimes got calls at like, you know, 12 o'clock in the morning telling me I needed to be on a plane at 8 a.m. the next day. And so, you know, I know like how like physically, emotionally, and like mentally like ill that made me over the span of like a year and maybe some change. And I never wanted to be that way again. So for me, like the ideal work-life balance at this point is me really just having the structure to tell myself to stop because I am somebody who wants to just keep going. I mean, there are still nights where I will put myself on Do Not Disturb, but like I'll still work until maybe 11 o'clock at night. But that's kind of like more of like a sacred choice for me. They're like uninterrupted hours that I know I'm going to be hyper productive in. And like, that's going to make my next day easier. Right. And so maybe tomorrow I'll have even more work-life balance than I did today. And that also bleeds into not responding to those emails over the weekend or those Slack messages. And I think, you know, for startup life, especially, you know, being in startup, I think this is very, very privileged. And I think I'll see a lot of heads nod. I have given nobody at work my phone number. Absolutely nobody knows how to contact me via phone. And I think that's really special. And I wish more startups and companies were able to do that. So that is one thing that I did for work-life balance. And then in terms of people who were constantly like calling me or texting me about introductions and things like that, but were never checking in with me otherwise, I changed my phone number. Like, congratulations, you can no longer get a hold of me. So those are some things I've done. I don't know if that's helpful to anybody. I know that some of it probably sounds it just a bit unattainable, but I hope some of you guys can maybe embody some of that.
Real quick, I'm gonna go buy a burner phone for my coworkers. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing and stuff. And yeah, I think we need goals. We need to be able to see that it's possible. So seeing you model these behaviors is fantastic. The next and last section talks about idleness, which I think all of us have somewhat of a complicated relationship with. Idleness in this view is not inactivity. Idleness is really time in which one is not actively pursuing a profitable goal. It means you are at leisure. There is a considerable scientific research demonstrating that idleness is good for you. And throughout the book, Celeste Headlee has some awesome research on actually the impact of idleness. I summarized it here for you. It drives innovation. It protects your health. It actually makes you more effective at your job. You can heal and recover. You can have increased activity. She actually, in the book, shared that I think Charles Darwin spent 4 hours a day working, to write The Origins of Species. So if that is possible with 4 hours of work, then pretty much anything is possible. So let's talk about idleness. What did idleness mean to you before reading this book? And what does it mean to you now? And how can you embrace more idleness in your day? Yeah, let's chat. Yeah, Jocelyn, please.
Well, I talked when I introduced myself about how I spent the weekend playing Tears of the Kingdom. Well, I do that because I need to. Like I spent the last 3 weeks, every single week, wondering how I was going to make it to the end of the week, looking at everything that was on my plate, like could barely breathe. And I was like, okay, it's been 3 weeks. If I don't take an intentional break, I'm going to break. So I forced myself to sit there and play. And so the idleness was just that. It wasn't just like, oh, I've got nothing else to do, so I'm just going to go and do this. It's like, if I don't make my, although there are some, strategies and all that stuff involved, but it's not the same. So I was able to relax, immerse myself in a different world, and not worry about all the people problem or financial issues or, P&Ls and all that stuff. And so to me, it's really forcing that moment of, I'm going to do something that brings me a ton of joy so that my brain can just slow down a bit. So.
I love that. And I love that you found something that like does that for you. And you did it just for the pure joy of it. There's no profit in playing Tears of Kingdom. Eric, please.
So I actually interpreted, or actually lived probably idleness to mean anything that was not work related, I think, before I read the book. And so a lot of it was just what am I doing for myself to fill up other tanks that I have to make me a better leader, to make me a better, partner, to make me a better son, all of those things. And so reading this and actually getting to the heart of what idleness means and not having a goal, even as much as saying like, now I'm running, there's still that goal of me closing my rings and making sure that, my pace is either flat or I'm getting better. And so idleness for me has turned into coloring, which has helped me meditate with intentionality. So, and even just slowing my mind to the speed of a pen to just write and not have an intention of like, I have to write 5 things I'm grateful for, but just to say stream of consciousness has slowed me down. And I have a piano now in my house. And so I've been playing piano for my whole life, and to just sit at the piano and have no judgment, nothing to fix, nothing to, accomplish in that sense, other than just making music and messing up and learning from those mistakes. It's really been remarkable. It's been a pretty big turning point the past couple of months for me, with intentionality, right? So having a piano, I can't bring that with me everywhere. So having a coloring book, having a journal, something that's a little bit more mobile, has been really wonderful.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love that you're getting a definition for idleness, but also defining it as like what brings me joy for yourself is just so powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Amazing. I think timing wise, we can move on to our first kind of activity with our limiting belief workshop. I want to call out that this was Heba's idea, a fantastic idea at that, and I will be reading her little bio. So everybody please meet Heba Yusuf. Heba Yusuf is a Chief People Officer at Workweek. She's also our guest host for this little section. She's the founder and creator of I Hate It Here, which has over 130,000 engaged readers and focuses on how HR and people teams can build great, fantastic work cultures. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. There's amazing GIFs. Heba is so real in her newsletter, and it's so valuable. Heba's led a global learning and development team, ran talent management teams, and was most recently head of people at a fintech startup. She's built people up teams from the ground up, like all of you also have, and has helped scale several companies. In her free time, you can find her reading sci-fi or fantasy novels and playing board games with her family. Heba, I'm going to need board game recs after this, but without further ado, let's dive into what limiting beliefs are.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. And thank you so much for having me. And I do have a lot of board game recs, so if you ever want to know, let me know. My husband has been playing them forever, and when we met, we actually bonded, and our relationship grew through playing board games with each other. It is my never-ending goal to be able to beat him at one, which he tells me is not the purpose of us playing, but I have to win. So I came very close this weekend during our idle time, but I lost in the last 10 minutes. So there's just that to know about me. I'm here today to talk a little bit about limiting beliefs. This is a session I've done a few times, and I have seen a lot of people leaders, like a light bulb goes on when we talk about limiting beliefs. And so if you haven't heard about them, they're I always describe them as like the white lies you tell yourself sometimes. And it's something that can stop yourself from pursuing what you really want. It also prevents you from seeing opportunities that come your way. And it keeps you from truly appreciating yourself. It's just like that dark thing you tell yourself sometimes. I think one of my limiting beliefs is I'm too young to hold the position that I hold. And it's reinforced quite regularly when I meet people at conferences and are like, wow, you're so young to have accomplished so much. And then I keep telling myself that thought over and over again. And sometimes in a room, I hold myself back from sharing the experiences I've had. I've been at 4 different startups. I truly have seen a lot of shit. And sometimes I hold myself back in rooms because I think oh, there's somebody with 10 more years of work experience than me. They might know better than me. And I think about that quite a bit. So that's a little bit about what a limiting belief is. Has anyone heard of this before? It's a very normal concept. Yeah. I think about my limiting beliefs quite a bit. Okay, so when we were talking about the book and what we wanted to do, I thought it'd be really nice to think about what are our limiting beliefs around being productive. And like an example of one is, if I work more hours, I'll get more done. My limiting belief about being productive, I'll just share mine now, is if I don't check everything off the list that I was supposed to do in one day, I have failed for the day. And it's like really tough sometimes. It's really, I grill myself on it at the end of the day. I'm like, I didn't 5 things on this list. I did 1, like I have failed today. And I'm truly working on that because I think it's holding me back from viewing like, what can I be doing better in my day to actually get these things done? And do all these things need to be done today even? And the answer is like, no, most of the time. So think about your limiting belief about being productive. Yeah, and are we sending people to breakout rooms? What are we doing?
In a breakout room, you're going to meet this person. You'll have a good probably 10 minutes with them. So get to know them, add them on LinkedIn, and make a friend. So yes. And all I request is please be compassionate. These often get quite vulnerable. And so making space for that. You're people ops folks, you know that. So
I just shared all my darkest fears with you all. So welcome.
Rooms are now open. You will get a 1-minute warning before your time is up. Have fun.
Hello, how was that activity? Hopefully a little bit of kind of almost therapy-like, but now we have a share and reflect exercise. There is no obligation to share your innermost, deepest, darkest secrets at all. However, if you did want to share a limiting belief that you discovered or discussed, and then maybe reframe that belief into something positive that you can use for yourself, please do that. Also, Heba, this is your workshop. Why am I talking? Sorry.
I actually loved it. I was like, I'm not going to say anything. Who wants to share?
Go for it.
Am I the only one who raised your hand? Okay. I'm gonna share, Eric. So one thing that was really interesting, so I mentioned that I'm getting the sense that we're all achievers. And we kind of had this really good conversation about the expectations that we put on ourselves that nobody else is placing. And so we're like, we put our own expectations on ourselves to be extremely responsive. And that in part is in response from our own experiences of having been frustrated from waiting for somebody else's answer. So we're like, oh, okay, so-and-so's talking to me. I'm gonna jump in there and help them. Well, meanwhile, my own work's not getting done. And so our work just keeps piling up because we're there helping everybody else, supporting everybody else. And so at some point we need to be able to figure out what are those boundaries. That's like, okay, no, I'm legitimately doing something. I'm not sitting around twiddling my thumbs. I'm in meetings or I'm in doing whatever. So it's respecting ourselves enough to say that, no, I'm actually busy doing stuff right now that I need to get accomplished. I can't be jumping all the time. So even if it waits an extra hour, they'll live. That's it.
I need just quotes from this. Even if it waits another hour, they will live. It's so true. So fantastic. Also, Helen, welcome. I'm so glad that you're able to join us. We're doing a limiting beliefs workshop, and so we'll throw you into the next kind of breakout room session, but folks are just kind of sharing their limiting beliefs right now. Erin, go for it.
Yeah, so I was actually talking to Trent about this just like a little bit, and I think I maybe took a different spin on the assignment here, which was that oftentimes a lot of us, even in our personal lives, have a lot of people we're surrounded by that also feel like work. And relationships with like friends shouldn't feel like work, right? Like that should be your reprieve. And I basically just had this massive aha moment at the beginning of the year where I was like, being around you makes me feel bad. Like being around you makes me feel bad. You make me do things I don't want to do. All of this sucks, but I feel like I have to do it. Like I was telling myself that if I didn't do it, like I was falling short because I've known this person for 5 years, or they helped me in a time that was kind of trying 7 years ago. Like just like forcing myself to do all of these things that I absolutely hated. And I stopped doing that. And it's really hard to stop doing that because you're really lonely for a very long time after that. You have like this 3-month period where you're like, man, I told everybody to go kick rocks and now I don't have any friends. And so that, I think, in general, just like limited me from one, doing that to begin with. But now that it has been done, like genuinely, I am happier than I have ever been. I'm surrounded by some of the best people I have ever been surrounded by. So if you have people that feel like work in your life, I don't know, tell them they feel like work or something. And if they can't handle that, then they probably don't have a place in your life. Like they probably just don't actually fit into that picture. That's my best advice for all these kinds of things.
So powerful. And another quotable, if they feel like work, why work when you're spending time with friends? Elise, welcome. I actually am going to just back up really quick since we have new folks here. We're doing limiting beliefs. If you haven't heard of it before, it's basically that belief, that dark thought that you have that holds you back. So that's going to prep us for our next little breakout room session. Let's jump into the next one, a limiting belief about leisure and just idleness. Heba, sorry, I keep talking to your spots.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. I'm just here. What is your limited belief around leisure or idleness? I think about this all the time. Like when I lie on the couch and I'm just reading, and then I feel like I'm lazy, even though reading is literally the only thing that brings me joy in this world. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm lazy. I could be washing the dishes. I could be folding the laundry. I could be answering that email. And I have to like really deconstruct that, because reading is what brings me passion and like creativity into everything I do. I'm also like always reading fantasy. So I'm like in another world half the time, but limiting belief around this. So think about that. I just shared mine.
Fantastic. And Katie, did you want to share your previous one or yeah?
Yeah, so well, about leisure and idleness, because this is what we talked about in our or what I shared in the breakout, is that where I find that anxiety is when work flows and there are, busy peaks, and then there are times when things are not as busy, and just feeling that it's okay to lean into the not busy and use that time either for idleness or for sharpening the saw or whatever it is, knowing that time's not going to last. It's going to be crazy busy again in a couple days or a week or tomorrow or who knows. And so it's, for me, it's that being okay with this is a lull, and, take advantage, let my brain take advantage of that time to be thoughtful and not have just have a break from the pressure.
Yeah. I love how you're framing it to see like that idleness time as valuable, because oftentimes we see that as a waste of money. If time is money, then that would be a waste. So I love that. We're going to send you off to your breakout rooms. You're going to meet the same person. Helen, you're going to be paired with Elise. And so you can go chat again. And yeah, let's dive in. Hello. How's it going? Okay, amazing. Folks are just like coming in from the breakout rooms and everything. I never got to check in. Helen, Elise, how are you both feeling today?
Hey, Yen. I'm gonna let Elise go, and then I'll.
No, lovely. It's a good week. Happy to be here. I watched something from Neil deGrasse Tyson, and it said, most of the humans who could be will never be, and so we are lucky to be here. And I feel like that perspective just like helps me on bad days, and I hope maybe it helps somebody here too. We're lucky.
So powerful stuff. Yeah, amazing. Helen, yeah.
Yeah. This week is a really crazy week for me, and I'm feeling like a little overwhelmed, to be completely honest, but I'm really glad I was able to make it to this call. Really enjoyed having you last weekend at my company. For those who don't know, Yen hosted a workshop on just mental health, and we had about 60 people attend globally. And it was really nice to see my EMEA folks, my APAC folks attend. And yeah, I think it's just a really important time to be just doing things for ourselves and prioritizing ourselves and our mental health.
You're for the call out. And yeah, in the resources, I had like the link. If anybody wants a free workshop, we're doing free workshops. So we can definitely work together more. Let's share and reflect. We technically have the round table. And so I've been debating on whether or not we should do this or dive into the round table. Quick show of hands, like what would folks prefer, to share limiting beliefs now or dive into round table? Okay, I saw Aaron mouth round table. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do round table just to give us enough time. We have 8 minutes on the clock, and I'm guessing a hard stop after that. So this is manager roundtable. It's meant to be an open space to bring your problems and get thoughts from other folks in the space. You're all working in some shape or form in an HR people ops role. So hopefully you all have context. Go for it. We'll take hands.
Dang, I called for this thing and now nobody's doing it.
It's okay. It takes a little bit to warm up because it's a big transition. Trent, please kick us off.
I mean, one of the things that I've been thinking about throughout this entire time is that before reading this book and this conversation, I thought it was, go, 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 results, results, results. And now I'm starting to think, it can be slow, 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 and you still get the results, the results, the results. And I want to take this back to my company, but are there any ideas or concepts of how we can integrate this in? Because it's easier for me to take on this action, but how do I help my leaders? How do I help my employees recognize this, or what initiatives do you think we could implement into the workforce?
Go for it, Megan.
Something that is working at our organization is we've tried to really decrease the noise on Slack. So we've like restructured how people interact so that there's just less noise. There are like dedicated channels for like important announcements that everyone needs to see, and then trying to just have people, we created like a list of like subject matter experts, so you know exactly who to go to if you have a specific question. Our company's fully remote, rather than like posting it randomly in Slack and then getting like 50 replies. You go to that person who owns that subject and get your answer directly, and that's helped.
Amazing. I see a ton of hands, so let's try to speed it. Tatiana, please.
Trent, one thing that I find very challenging, I was a facilitator for a couple of years, is that people don't take breaks. When you talk about productivity and prioritization, people feel guilty about taking breaks. And I would say that this is a very powerful way to see change immediately when it comes to work and productivity and people just feeling refreshed. So whether it is you start with your smaller subset team and do an experiment and then share findings, like a half-hour break for everyone every single day, and then you can share on Slack or share what did you do, how did it go for you, just so people can start feeling pumped about that. And just the sharing experiment of having that time away from work can really help you feel a sense of energy, reinvigorate yourself, etc. So I would say that's a good experiment to start with, because a lot of people don't give themselves permission. They feel guilty for it. And normalizing breaks, I think, is a great place to start.
That's breaks. I love it. Katie, go ahead.
Tatiana, that's one of the two areas I was going to go, is like making it okay for your team to take breaks. So maybe I advertise more that it's like, hey, I'm going to go walk the dogs. I'll be back online in 30 minutes. So that, and encouraging that with your teams. The other thing to Trent, your comment, we use Teams, sorry. And I redesigned for our relationship, part of our relationship management team, which is 100 or so people, our team structure, so that it was streamlined. We were able to archive and get rid of many, many channels and help collaboration be more concise. And we're still getting rolling with the new structure, but that whole, I have 8,000 places to look for things, and that's overwhelming to me. Our goal is that it helps reduce that and really focus in, but also helps people connect with each other when they need help or they have a win to share or whatever it is. So fully support both those ideas. So thank you for raising them.
Amazing. And last but not least, Eric.
I was actually just going to +1 on what they said. I just think broadly, like, you have to live it. So there's one thing to say we promote this, that we believe in this, but being able to say in certain things, even if it's posting pictures. Hey, I went on a mindful hike for 20 minutes in between meetings. And people, unfortunately, it breaks my heart when they'll come to me and say, Eric, we love that you value, your time off, and like you'll post things with your family. Like it makes us feel like it's okay. And that always breaks my heart. I feel like, for those that work asynchronously, you should be able to do those things. But if I have to be the example and in turn my team has to be the example, then fine. Like we can start off there. But a lot of it is being able to set the boundary of time with Google Calendars, with availability, with responsiveness on Slack. And so you start to set those boundaries and other people then see that and say, oh, okay, I guess I can do that too. And so that's one thing that's been very beneficial for us too. And some of it's worked, some of it hasn't. We tried to do like a no meeting Wednesday, but we have a lot of folks that have external meetings that are sometimes at the mercy of other people's schedules. And so they've, found a blend between the two, but yeah, living it is really is crucial.
I love that. And I'm just going to throw in an idea that was brought up in our previous session for the EMEA leaders, seeing this as like multiple concentric circles. So right now you have to focus on the self-awareness, and that's going to help you kind of change your own behaviors, model that to your extended team. I love Tatiana's point about doing a tiny experiment that could perhaps scale and turn into a wider process. So that's maybe the middle circle. And then finally that wider circle where you can actually roll out benefits, roll out processes, and really start to educate the wider staff. Seeing it as like tiny things can maybe make it feel less daunting that I have to suddenly create this anti-work revolution at my company. How the heck do I pursue that? So amazing. Unfortunately, we probably don't have time given that we have a minute left. So I just wanted to call out some resources that are included with book club. If you haven't already, check out the book club hub, check out that club directory, add everybody here on LinkedIn. These are your new friends and confidants and stuff. Thank you all for being so vulnerable. There's like a bunch of stuff. I'll share the slides so you have access to all of it. We do free workshops like Helen was so awesome to call out. A huge thank you to Heba for being our guest host. A huge thank you to Monica. And thank you all for attending. We'll see you next week for part 2, where we actually address what the hell to do about the problems brought up in part 1. So thank you. And yay, pumped to see you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. Amazing. Awesome. Okay, another one bites the dust. Okay. I'm going to use the bathroom. Okay, I'm just gonna keep ending with like that weird statement. Okay.